Well, hey, looks like this show's going live. How do you do? My name is Chris, and I'll be your host this evening. Tell you what, we're about to get started. We'll talk to some commenters and stuff. I always like to give credit for the folks who jump in early, but here's something that'll be fun. Let's have an official intro. That's fancy. Yeah, can't beat that, huh? Pretty high-end production values. Yeah, that's why I have my producer in the back here so that he can play clips like that. Obviously, this is a top-notch production. This is something I spend millions on to get right. But no, I'm being sarcastic. Welcome to the week. That's not my best intro. Welcome to the weekly Spinner Rack. Lovely to have you here. This is going to be a great one. I've got something cool to draw that's related to something cool that came out. I've got some awesome comics that I want to discuss, both good and bad. And then I've also got a ton of clickbait-worthy comic book news, only the best, as well as some cool comics that I think are worth mentioning. So, yeah, let's see. Oh, that's a great point. Rick Shelley points out, hey, you know what? It's time for the patented double salute. That's something that I give to you guys right off the bat. Drop the beat. I dropped it. Fumble right at the end zone. That's pretty much par for the course for this show. I'm really good at that. No worries. Let's see. So why are you surrounded by green screens? Just to sort of block out the clutter that's in the back. I record this down in our basement, which has just been sort of accumulating boxes of stuff that we need to downsize. And I thought that the curtains were slightly better. Not perfect, but for now, they're all right. Well, thanks for jumping into the stream, Cheesy. Let's see. Looks and sounds good tonight. That's nice to hear. That's awesome to hear. Whoa! Triple thumbs up back at you. That is so nice, Andy. And 1, 2, and where's my third thumb? I do rank things on a basis of 3 thumbs, but I don't know where I put my third thumb. But thank you very much. Let's see. Looks like I've got Joe Dent. Can't believe I missed the Friday the 13th live stream. I did 2 live streams in addition to this normal weekly show on the channel this past week. Some of that was just to sort of have a little bit of fun. One was something I only do every month or so, showing off some comic books that viewers sent in. I thought that was a lot of fun. And then totally impromptu on Friday the 13th, I decided to draw Jason Voorhees. That's why this little figure's still hanging out there. I'll put him to the side. But thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Love the second best show on YouTube, Second to Comic Tropes. Well, I should have a new episode ready this coming weekend. I think I'm good. I know I've been taking a lot longer to do this. It seems like pretty much everybody understands. Every once in a while, I just need to slow down a little bit to prevent burnout, but I also want to make sure that the episodes I'm making are really good, so I'm taking a little more time. Wow, cool. Mexico City. Well, hello from the United States. Lovely to have you here. Oh, cool. Lovely to have you here. That is my sister down there. That is my sister, Jean, and it's always awesome to know that you're here. Well, tell you what, I think this is a good opportunity to jump into, hello, Daniel, to jump into discussing some comics of the week and my opinions on them. This part will be relatively brief, but there were some interesting things that came out and some interesting things that I read. Let me see. I guess I need to shift that a little, or shift this. Yeah, there we go. One of the first things I personally picked up was I decided to get volume 2 of Chainsaw Man. Obviously, I know the anime is a pretty big hit. And, I did enjoy the first volume. Tatsuki Fujimoto is a very good artist. And Chainsaw Man, as its title implies, has a little bit of tongue-in-cheek. So it is, that's actually a really good title. It implies a lot of what you get there. Yeah, you're going to get some action with chainsaws, some gory stuff, but you're also getting something that's a little bit funny. And this episode finally starts to make us understand the characters a little better. By the way, I got to say, I love a well-done black and white comic that knows how to use screen tones to add some depth. But also, I love that manga will take its time when it needs to draw a very elaborate and realistic, background or setting. Wow, a super chat from me. Thank you, TJ Rip. Appointment viewing for me every week. Love the weekly comics review. Oh, that's nice. I won't claim that Chainsaw Man is my favorite manga or anything like that, but I'm enjoying it. And to me, manga is comics, comics is manga, and can be differences, but there's differences in indie and mainstream and superhero and crime comics, etc. So, yeah, I try to read a little bit of everything and keep up with what's popular, and I do like Chainsaw Man, so that was fun. Let's get into some of the weekly comics, though, that came out this week. By the way, wow, always good to have you here, Steve. Thank you so much for the super chat. He's saying maybe you consider leaving a like. Hey, I certainly appreciate it. I'd love to grow this channel and maybe get to like at least 10,000 subscribers. I think that that's a very reasonable goal for the short term. We'll see. So, Something is Killing the Children. It came out, issue 28. I think that Werther Dell'Edera is getting slightly better at his storytelling, and he was already good. He does a lot of, and I'm not sure if it's James or if it's Werther that's deciding to do this. I lean a little bit more to thinking it's Werther deciding to do this. 2-panel spreads where, we're actually reading all the way across 2 rows of panels. And what I mean by slightly better storytelling is that Werther is starting to put some of the panels slightly over, the page crease, which helps me as a reader know that I'm not supposed to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Instead, I'm supposed to read all the way across. It's a very minor thing, but it really does help you. Whereas on this page, because of where the borders are, I know I'm reading all the way down, all the way down. It's a nice move. And this issue in particular definitely ups the stakes, where we know that there are monsters, there are civilians who are, like the stakes, the people that we care about, and we've gotten to know that and stuff. The person we like is, our hero, Erica Slaughter. And she's finally she's locked up, and a fellow Black Mask, somebody that should be at least as good a fighter as her, has been sent by, the houses to take her out. She's not part of the monster hunting community anymore. She's doing her own thing, and it ups the stakes because now she's being set up. She's in danger. She's physically threatened, and that's good. It's good to involve other people that she's protecting and stuff. It can't just be Erica, but at the core, we care about the main character. And finally, this issue sets it up so that like the next issue or next 2 issues should be some really good action and fighting to save our hero against somebody that should be, has been established to be at least as good a threat physically and emotionally. She doesn't care about civilians and stuff. So it's cool. I'm excited for this. Does the monster hunting community have live streams? If they do, that's not very good at keeping yourself a secret, is it? Yes. Beowulf is fun. Gingerly tap that like button. Thank you. Let's see. Chris, I saw one comic artist and Chainsaw Man superfan that the series picks up after the beginning. But I didn't follow all of that, Wally. Sorry, I'm trying to. Screen tones is one of the best ways to depict shadows. It depends on an artist's style, like how heavy, like actually it would be interesting to see screen tones with an artist that uses like really heavy blacks, like we'll say Mike Mignola. It could be interesting, but it isn't necessarily necessary. He's really good with his deep dark shadows, and a lot of American comics have inkers that put a lot of texture and time and stuff like that into who they're inking. But for more open line art style, I'll call it, I really like the depth that it gives it. I like that. That's something very different from, Japanese comics versus, say, European comics. Both can draw a very open line art style. Somebody like Mobius or Hergé, Tintin comics and stuff. It's very open. It's not like lots and lots of texture on like faces and clothes and stuff like that. But you're not really going to see a lot of screen tones in a typical European comic versus Asian comics. Anyway, let's move on. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. I'm right in the middle on The Dead Lucky. It started off as a book I really, really liked because of how it was presenting its main character. She was talking directly to us, the audience, although in story, that was more explained away as she has PTSD. She's a separated army soldier that was deployed and saw some pretty bad action where she lost her fellow soldiers. So she would sort of be talking to them, but really like it was positioned as talking to us. They're not really doing that anymore for some reason. But this issue's fun because it ties into the Massive verse a little bit more. This villain is Shift, who's gone up against Radiant Black a few times. In this, he's more a hired hand, a mercenary working with these, we'll just call them for the sake of ease, freedom fighters in San Francisco. She's teaming up with them. It's not an easy alliance, but she's teaming up with them because, an evil corporation is running the city and has it under martial law. If you like RoboCop, there's a little bit of that in this. There is a little bit of that in this. So it's fun, but I feel like I'm just losing sight of the protagonists slightly as they're doing a lot of world building. World building's important, but just like I was talking about why this issue was so good is because we're refocusing on the main character. I think it's something every once in a while you have to, as you're building a story, like find that focus. And I would say Something is Killing the Children was a little bit more focused than The Dead Lucky this week. Not slamming it, just saying. I usually pick up an issue here or there of Marvel and DC's event comic type things. And this one, Planet Lazarus, right? Or Lazarus Planet. What's the difference? First issue of an event comic. And I decided to pick it up because I sort of knew the background on this because it's flowing out of the books Mark Waid has been writing, including World's Finest and Batman versus Robin. All you really need to know is this. Those Lazarus pits that Ra's al Ghul has always revived himself from, well, there's like this huge sort of volcano of all that Lazarus material, like that goop. And some bad guys made that volcano explode. It got up into the clouds and is seeding the whole planet with magic material. It's messing up various superheroes' powers. Sometimes it'll amplify them, sometimes it'll negate them, it'll change them. And it's an interesting enough idea. I usually trust Mark Waid. This is like artwork that is good but didn't appeal to me personally. But if somebody else said they really, really liked it, I'd understand where they're coming from. It's well rendered. It's interesting. It's clear enough. I felt like a lot of the panels were just a little muddy. And maybe some of that's color. To be fair, I really don't like to point. I'm just saying what I like and what I don't like. And on this one, the art didn't really connect with me in a big way. There's also a massive cast of characters. All of a sudden, we've got Blue Beetle and Power Girl and Swamp Thing. They're all just sort of showing up out of nowhere. They're just like hey, something seems different. Let's all. But it might lead to something interesting. You need to change your heroes up every once in a while a little bit. So I can understand the idea behind this. I feel like I don't know the magic side of DC super, super well. Like, if you asked me to tell you a bunch of stuff about the Phantom Stranger, I'd just sort of be like, I think he's Jewish. He's maybe omnipotent. I don't really know his personality, origin, or anything like that. I mean, can I recognize these characters? These are all like sort of magic characters that came up. I go, you know what? I feel like I recognize about half of them. Like I go, is this guy the Pied Piper? I don't know. I guess I'm not enough of an expert. Is this Aztec, or is this like a new version of Ragman? I don't know. Of course, I recognize Alan Scott, Green Lantern. There's Claire Boy Witch. Grant Morrison created this character in his JLA run, which was sort of like he's just a Native American superhero that is a little better than Apache Chief from the Super Friends cartoon. But I don't know all of them. I don't know who this guy is in, like, the trench coat and everything. That's not Constantine. I don't know. Looks like Hawkman. I don't know where. I don't think Hawkman's in this. Oh, ChemDog says it is Ragman. Okay, so that's a slightly different version of Ragman. Okay, so they updated his look, and that's fine. Ragman's actually kind of cool. I do like Ragman. You got to read the classic DC Who's Who comics. Well, they need to update that. I loved when you could get Who's Who for DC and the Marvel Universe Encyclopedia, or it was called something like that. I loved those books. Loved it. Randy, awesome to have you here. Let's see. From here, it almost looks like the hyper-colored straight from the pencils kind of art style. Where are the credits? Okay. Ricardo Federico is the artist, and Brad Anderson is the color. So, yeah, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe this wasn't inked. Maybe this was just straight from the pencils, because there is a lot of hatching that's somewhat subtle. But if you look up close at like characters' faces, you can see a little bit of hatching that's gentler than what you typically see with inking tools. So yeah, maybe this was just straight from pencil to color. I feel like that's very hit and miss as to how well that ends up represented. And I couldn't always explain to you exactly why. But yeah. Anyway, it's decently interesting. I just wasn't in love with it, whereas I have to admit, I have really been enjoying Mark Waid's Batman versus Robin and World's Finest. Those have been really, really fun. I've also been like those used artists like Dan Mora and Mahmoud Asrar, who I like a little bit more than this, but that's okay. Okay. It's not bad. I just admit there are certain things that I wasn't in love with it. Maybe if you're way more tied into DC and you already know some of their magic stuff, maybe this is more exciting for you. Here's one I really did like, because it's just so weird of an idea. And I talked about it with issue 2. Issue 1. This is issue 2 of Danger Street, Tom King, Jorge Fornes. And it's using characters from the 13 different issues of DC special, which would each feature a different character, and tying them into one big mystery. Also, it seems like he is positioning the green team as a little bit of villains in this. And the green team, let me try to find it. Yeah, the green team in the original comics were these 4 boys that were like multimillionaires, and they would solve the world's problems with their money. But I'm not 100% sure that that's what they're doing with their money. They seem to be having sort of nefarious long-term plans. But I mean, this is a book that has like, you know, the original blue, not the original, but like the blue Starman. It has Warlord. It has Lady Cop, Metamorpho, Dr. Fate. Who else? The Creeper. Really weird characters to have all together in one story, but it kind of works. It kind of works. I like it a lot. It's a mystery at its core. It's got like some really weird stuff going on. I respect it. I respect it a lot. I think it's fun, and I really do recommend it. Oh, did they? That's interesting. I did not know that. Steve says that they tried to reboot the Green Team during the New 52. I missed that reboot. That was one I did not know about. And I agree with you, TJ Rip. The funeral scene with Seed. Me English good tonight. The funeral scene with the dingbats of Danger Street is pretty sad. Like Tom King's connecting. I really like what he's doing with these 12-issue stories at DC, where he's sort of carving out his own corner and doing that stuff. Yeah, Lady Cop is definitely in there. No, I didn't watch Velma on HBO. It didn't look that funny to me. But I also was really turned off in terms of how boy, it looks like, first of all, it's not that great, but it's getting a lot of hate for stuff that I wouldn't necessarily say is the root cause of why it's not funny. Like, people were saying that it's trying to be like, woke. So there's lots of websites and channels that were like condemning it before it even came out, and they didn't really have a chance to see it. To be fair, I also watched the trailer and I was like, probably not for me, but I'm also not the world's biggest Scooby-Doo fan. You know who would know more about that? Let me think for half a second. There's a comic tuber that knows his Scooby-Doo inside and out, and I'm just trying to remember his name, because you guys know I'm bad at names. I'll think of it later, and when I think of it, I'll recommend, because he probably has a nuanced take on it because he knows Scooby-Doo really, really well. I don't really know. NerdSync. Thank you. A couple people just pointed it out. Yeah, NerdSync. Yeah, he'd have a good take on it, I bet, because he knows Scooby-Doo, but he's not going to say, oh, this is by SJWs or anything. He'll have a take on it that probably makes sense. But it just wasn't for me. Wait, who? The guy who plagiarized you is an expert on Scooby-Doo. The guy who plagiarized me? I think you're confusing two channels, Steve. NerdSync never plagiarized me. The channel that plagiarized me was Nerdstalgic, I think. And they took the episode down and apologized, which is the most I can hope for. Oh, cool. Okay. One of my nieces and nephews really likes Scooby-Doo. I liked Scooby-Doo a lot when I was a kid. I just don't know all the different iterations of it. I don't know it super, super well, but I like Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo's funny. Hello, No. Thanks for jumping in. Anyway, good question. I just don't really, I'm not the expert there. Let me move on. Hey, I was just talking about Tom King. I've mentioned this a bunch that I love Human Target. I don't want to repeat myself too much. We've got a murder mystery. There's a twist in this. This is a funny issue. Even though the main character is dying, he only has a few days left to live. He goes to, I think what everybody can agree is the mentally dumbest Green Lantern, Nort, who's basically a dog man that's always accidentally breaking the rules, and why they let him keep a Green Lantern ring, who knows? It's funny, but Christopher Chance has to get some information on Green Lantern stuff, so he goes to a guy that he can essentially manipulate, and that makes sense in the context of this. And yeah, Nort gets drunk and makes some pretty dumb mistakes and stuff. I like this. He's like he's confronted by one of his bosses, right? Like one of the what are they called? The Guardians, I think. And not only does he barf on him, but then when he can't think of like a good excuse, he just kicks him and knocks him out. It's like, I don't know. It was a funny issue. Artwork by Greg Smallwood. Mwah, top notch. Excellent stuff. So, EJ has some information for us about the artist on Lazarus Planet. So I appreciate this. Riccardo Federici is an oil painter. He either paints his covers or interiors, just does them in pencils. Since they've credited somebody else on colors, I'm going to assume that he then drew this completely in pencil, no inks. That might explain why there's just a slight muddiness, in my opinion, to the end result. It's not bad. It's not ugly. It's just not as crisp as some of what I'm used to seeing in comics. Thank you though so much for the extra information, EJ. Appreciate that. Hello from Scotland. Hello from the US. You cannot have a serious issue with a dog. Ed Norton from the Honeymooners hybrid. Yeah, and it isn't treated as serious as the other issues, but it moves the plot forward. So I think it's also good timing to have a funny issue of Human Target here at book 10 out of 12. It sort of resets things a little bit, and then it'll let us go into the climax. Steve, thank you so much. Scooby-Doo taught us to always be skeptical. It's true. And the bad guys prey on people's superstitions. Bad guys were always rich people, kind of like real life. Yeah, there was some accurate stuff in Scooby-Doo. I agree with you. Hey, Diane, have you here so much. Diane is the G.I. Joe continuity expert. Did a lot of great stuff for IDW. Wherever G.I. Joe ends up next, I hope they're lucky enough to have you involved, because you know G.I. Joe. I love G.I. Joe. I appreciate what you do. Let's see. Moving on. I tried this one. It was a recommendation from somebody in my Twitter feed. They said to try All Against All. And I respect a bunch of this. I do like the artwork in this by somebody named Casper Wingard. I think that Alex Packnadel, the writer, has some very big ideas for this sci-fi story in terms of the world building. It didn't connect with me very well. I feel bad saying that because I wanted to like it. And I think a lot of other people would like it more than I did. I don't know how to describe it though, because I wasn't really connecting with it. But it does have to do with all sorts of aliens. And the main ones are very like scientifically based, scientifically minded. They keep everything at arm's length, and I feel like I don't quite connect to them very, very well. I want to. Andy says, Scooby-Doo taught me that the bad guy is always one of the 3 civilians we meet at the start of the cartoon. Well, look, here's a secret for like any mystery. You're always going to meet who the killer is within like that first act. Yeah, I say always. More than 90% of the time, you're going to know, you're going to meet that person at the beginning. So don't get thrown off by red herrings with people that get introduced in like the second act and stuff like that. It's somebody that we meet right away. Wingard is great. And his spelling is Wijngaard. So you were super close. You had the J in a slightly incorrect space. But let me see some responses here. TJ Whip says, I liked All Against All, mostly for the art. Issue 2 came out last week. Okay, so I'm behind. Maybe I need to give it a second chance. I will admit this. I read this issue when I was very, very tired. That might not have been fair to the creators here. You know, it's some of it is I have to fit in reading the comics when I can, and I was very when it required a little bit more concentration, a little bit more buy-in my part, and there's all sorts of artwork from music to movies to books that can require that, you know, a little more attention. But I didn't connect in a huge way, but let me just give it like the little wiggle room that I read it when I was super tired. So maybe I just needed to refocus on it more. Here's one that was really interesting that I also sort of picked up on a whim. And by the way, God bless Image Comics for taking chances on, like, you know, such different types of stories. You know, like a weird alien sci-fi story here. This one is fantasy, but it's a crime story. So it takes place in a world where there's no more war or anything like that. We've got one massive city of all sorts of, you know, beings, from elves to mermaids, you know, and all sorts of weird beings that you've never seen before as well. But it's also sort of like modern, even though it's like there's magic, there's a little bit of technology, light technology. And we follow the main character, Phaedra, who is a Black Cloak, the titular Black Cloak. They're police. She used to be part of the royal family. We don't know exactly why she left or anything. She is now in exile there, but she is a homicide detective in this world. And the person she's investigating the murder of is somebody that she was once betrothed to. So she has a bit of personal stake in figuring this weird story out. Why would somebody kill a royal member? Also, it was like a brothel. The artwork is definitely stylized, as you can see, but very consistent, very easy to read. Look, you can tell an expression. Like, you can just instantly, good. I know exactly what these people are feeling. Very consistent, really, really fun. Also, the colors are very sort of well, they're light and they're muted, but it does give the whole thing an air of magic and fantasy. Nothing's too harsh, except for some small moments when they're looking at, you know, like a dead body or something. It's a little darker. Look at like even like these like establishing shots of, say, you know, like just a meeting room in the royal family. I mean, that's some really beautiful artwork, I think. I really like this. I've never come across this artist, Meredith McLaren, before. She's great. She's really, really fun. And the Murder Mystery by Kelly Thompson does a very good job at balancing a little bit of world building with still a focus on both the plot and the main characters. It's a really good balance. I like this. This was really fun to come across. And look at these reactions. I agree. Looks gorgeous. Yup. Meredith McLaren is an amazing artist, highly underrated. I hadn't come across her work before. I like it. I like it quite a bit. She's definitely got her own thing going and very confident work. I bought the Peach Momoko cover and I enjoyed it. That's nice. The colors are calming to the eyes. Yeah, which is like clever because it's lulling you into this like bit of like being like relaxed while you're reading it, but it's a murder mystery. And it doesn't lose sight of that. It you come across some really interesting characters along the way, and you get like a few hints as to Phaedra's background, but you don't know the full story yet. Ends on a cliffhanger. Really cool. Who did the colors, by the way? Art and colors are by Meredith McLaren. That's great. I recommend this. This flew under my radar. Took a chance on it. It paid off. It's really different. And I'm looking for that stuff personally. Another Image book. We're almost done. I've got 2 more Image books. God bless them for creating so many different genres these days. I love it. Let's see. Meredith McLaren wrote and drew a cool series from Image called Hinges. Yeah, that somehow I just don't know about that one. So thanks for putting on my radar. I guess I need to look into Hinges because I did like her work quite a bit in Black Cloak. I'll be picking up the rest of the issues. I've also really been enjoying this one, Dark Ride, which is a horror book. Specifically, it's set at a horror theme park, and the strong implication, is that the guy who founded it made a deal with demons and stuff like that, because there is some creepy stuff going on in the background, and some of it can be quite subtle. For instance, this woman is investigating her brother's death, and she's walking around the park at night. And look at this. She walks by some statues, and one of them just turns to look at her. She doesn't see that. Nobody else sees that. We, the reader, can see it as long as we're paying attention. So I like it. It's creepy as hell. It's dark, so it's really dark, actually. There's something pretty wild that happens to this one YouTuber that's been investigating, like, sort of more casually, like the rumors behind this horror theme park, and something happens to him at the end. I was like, wow, I don't feel like I've quite seen that exact thing before. That is scary and gory and kind of cool. That's interesting. Diana says, is there any truth to the talk that Jason Pearson passed? I don't know. Let me check real quick. I don't know anything yet. Jason Pearson, I know he has dealt with mental health issues, but I don't want to speculate too fast. I don't see anything that confirms anything, so I don't know. Is that going on Twitter, over social media? Interesting. Nothing on any official source. Then again, comic book creators don't always make the news headlines. Sometimes we find out from like our peers and who we can trust within that. Yukihiro Takahashi passed away. That's recent. I don't know that one. I'm sorry. I'm looking on social media just to because we are talking about news and stuff. Let me see if I can find anything that feels like either a confirmation or a refutation. I think that Jason is talented. He's definitely had some issues, but we all have issues, don't we? Yeah. Okay. Wow. I'm seeing some things from some artists that say they, know him, and that he is. We're talking about the artist behind books like Body Bags is maybe his most famous. He's done a lot of work for like all the publishers. It does seem to be going around social media by a lot of different artists. A lot of people. He was like kind of close to a lot of people in that Comicsgate movement, and I'm seeing a lot of Comicsgate people like saying that they're very sad to see this. I don't want to like name a specific person that we're like, I don't for a fact, but the stuff I'm seeing on various social media platforms, I follow a fair amount of artists and stuff. It does seem to be that they're taking it as that it's happened. That's interesting. Let's see. Chemdog says, Chemdog, you're saying he appears to still be alive? I don't know. Like we're talking like the last few minutes. Like it's going around Twitter anyway. But rumors can start, so I really hesitate to say that it's confirmed or anything. Let's wait until until we get an actual statement from a relative or a manager, somebody like that would speak on his behalf, or if he's still alive, maybe Jason can clear this up. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, Andy. That was like some maybe even the first thing I ever saw by Jason Pearson. Was either that or I like literally I did an episode on Penthouse Comics, and he was an early artist on that. But I remember the Savage Dragon stuff. I don't know. And if he has passed, I don't have any details on the things I'm looking at as to like how that would have happened. So maybe we'll know by the end of the episode, but realistically, we might not know for like a day or two with stuff like this. So I'm going to keep moving on because I just don't know. And then I'll get to the news shortly. Last weekly or monthly, whatever you want to call it, comic that I picked up. In a way, I sort of took a chance on this because I've liked some stuff by Mark Millar, and other stuff I feel like he's intentionally trying to be edgy, edgelord stuff. I read the original stuff he had. Imagine if Batman was evil, but he has all resources he needs. He's super smart. He can win every fight. He can outthink several steps ahead everybody that he's going up against. I felt like it was a little unfair. Legit, like I can't even think of how to describe this one thing that the bad guy does in the first Nemesis series. He does something like utterly despicable and evil that also doesn't get explained. But he wires a woman. There's no explain it that won't get me just like totally demonetized. It's pretty rough. But I decided to take a chance because I have liked some stuff that Mark Millar did. I liked his Nightclub last week, which is like a teenager becomes a vampire and decides to become a superhero. That's a cool concept. He got Jorge Jimenez to draw this. Jorge Jimenez is one of the best artists today. This is basically a bit of a reboot, though, to the idea. And again, Nemesis just does some stuff that's almost impossible. He like kidnaps every single crime lord and gang leader in LA. Every single one. We're talking like dozens and dozens of them. Like kind of easily too. He just sort of swoops by, snatches them, blindfolds them, and makes them all stab each other to death while blindfolded. Just so that he can control things. He just never has any difficulty with anything. He breaks into a gala and kills everybody easily and steals tons and tons of money to fund his stuff. And his goal is to just sort of make a guy running for mayor that like has a lot of love and support by the community, make him look bad, I guess, by taking out as many police as possible. Even if you don't have love for police in general, this is still like, targeting human beings. And basically what he does is he puts, because he robbed that gala and has money, he says he'll pay 10 grand to the citizens of the city for every dead police officer they kill. I mean, that is an evil plan and everything. What frustrates me a little is how easy it all comes to him. I know he's a bad guy, but he's also the protagonist, and everything just comes so easily to him because he's thought ahead like 20 steps. I'll be honest, it's the same problem I personally have with an average heist story. Like those movies, what are they called? Like Now You See Me. Like they get looked to us, and then at the very like, but all along this was my plan, and I had thought 30 steps ahead, and here's how I actually managed to pull off the heist. And it's like, well, if you're just going to say that they can always like think, okay, there's no chance for like the opposite side to win. So, Thank you, Glasgow, Scotland. Lovely to have you have a Glaswegian here. Hello from the US. Same problem as Saw? Well, there's always at least one or two people that have a chance in Saw, but yeah, Saw is also a little unfair. Let's see. Since he's specifically an anti-Batman archetype, I figure the ability to do whatever he wants as easily as he can is intentional. It is intentional. It's 100% intentional. I'm saying it means I'm not as invested as I want to be in the story because I'm like, well, he's definitely going to like, basically be 100% successful until basically the final issue. Someone might, make him slip up slightly by doing something, that's all we're going to get. But the art is gorgeous. So it's still worth getting for the Jorge Jimenez art. Let me move on to some comic book news of the week. I also did pick up one back issue, just one, but this is in good quality and not too expensive. Defenders was a fun, weird book. But anyway, so I picked that up. I'm going to, before I talk about the news, I'm going to sort of start inking this thing. What I super loosely roughed out here was, I don't know how many of you will recognize this, but I'm trying to draw my take on Ellie versus a clicker. Who are those people? Ellie is one of the two leads in The Last of Us, which probably my favorite video game. Probably, certainly story-wise it is. And as of yesterday, it began as an HBO show. So I love this game. This was an excuse to draw her. And I thought that would be fun. So I'm going to work on that. And while I work on that, we'll talk about some news of the week. So let me add something to the stream here. You forgot it came out. Super Pickle says, watch the HBO show, eh? It's cool. It seems like they did a good job. I hope it stays good. So, first news. I just talked about some Mark Millar stuff. Sorry, I keep saying Millar, but apparently it's Miller. So, my apologies. That's just in my head. I want to pronounce it that way based on the spelling, but that is apparently not correct. He has announced that he's going to have a huge crossover with basically all of his Miller World creations. He's going to put them all together in a shared universe. So here's like a little ad, and it's called Big Game. It's going to come out June. He says that there's about 24 different titles or characters, at least from his titles, that will all cross over into this. Artwork by Pepe Larraz. Did some excellent work on X-Men. Miller can definitely get top tier talent to work with. He definitely can. And he said that it's going to start building in the titles like right now, building up for the next couple of months. So it's going to have books like Nemesis, Nightclub. What is it called? The Magic Order is another one that he does, as well as stuff like Kick-Ass, Hit Girl, Kingsman. It's all supposedly going to get tied together. That's a lot. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be interesting. Keep in mind, Miller World was sold to Netflix in, I want to say, the end of 2017. So they have first right of refusal to adapt his projects moving forward. I wonder if they would ever do something like that, like, put together a huge crossover of all this different stuff. And I just sort of wonder, like he works in a lot of different genres. So like, are we going to say that Jupiter's Legacy and Kingsman and Kick-Ass all take place in the same world? Or is there going to be a multiverse type thing? Because Kick-Ass clearly takes place in a world where there's no superheroes, right? I don't know. At least it has so far. Did I read Reborn, Huck, Starlight, or Superior? No, I didn't read those. I haven't read all of his stuff, so I'm not an expert. Kingsman isn't too bad. I'll say this. I think Miller has lucked out with having adaptations that are possibly, I think you could at least argue that almost all of them are better than the source material. Maybe not Wanted. I don't know. It depends on where you fall there. But I think that Kick-Ass, the first movie, was arguably better than the comic. I think that what else? Logan was based in some ways on Old Man Logan, and I think that was a better movie than it was a comic. The Avengers movies took some cues from the Ultimates. I think that those are better. I don't know. It's just an argument that I would make, yeah. Let's see. The next time Grant Morrison wants to see Mark Miller, he wants to go 80. What? I don't get it. What did I miss? I missed something. He hasn't been as edgy as he was in the 2000s. That's fair, so that's why I'm willing to give this rebooted version of Nemesis a try. I hope it doesn't go as dark. So, I'm going to move forward. I'm here having the words wrap. I could have just heard Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips book coming out. I think you guys know that I absolutely adore that duo. I think that they're just one of the best art teams on a comic at all. I say creative team, whatever you want to call them, storytellers. I love their work. I'm a big fan of like crime and mysteries, and they do that, but they do a bunch of different takes on that, you know. They've got a new book coming out called Night Fever, June 20th. So I wanted to put that on people's radar because I love these guys. The little description is: in Europe on a business trip, Jonathan Webb can't sleep. He finds himself wandering a foreign city with his new friend, the violent and enigmatic Rainer, who shows him the hidden world without rules or limits. It's got a gorgeous cover, sort of a really painted style. Fingers crossed, you know. But they haven't let me down yet, so I'm definitely going to pick it up, and I'll be hopeful that it's excellent. I got to let my comic store know to have that one on order for me, but I love them so much I had to mention them. Wait, now that song is in my head. Is Night Fever a song? I don't know. Fran G says, definitely looking forward to Night Fever. Cool. Has Criminal finished publication, or is there a new season coming? I think it's possible that they could at some point go back to Criminal, but for now, you know, like their main focus has been Reckless, and I think that they just wanted to avoid burnout by doing too much of one thing, so they're taking a break and doing Night Fever, and then they'll come back. Bee Gees. The Bee Gees have a song called Night Fever. I don't know that one. Yeah, everybody's saying that Night Fever. If I heard it, maybe I'd know it. I don't know. Look at it. Everybody's talking about it. Isn't Night Fever a Bee Gees song? Andy pointed it out already. Okay. How have you not heard Night Fever? I'm so jealous. What? I don't know this one. Chris isn't a disco fan. Actually, I don't mind disco. Like, disco gets a bad rap and stuff, but there's some legit bops when it comes to disco. There's some junk, but must be the Night Fever. Yes, I should have mentioned, I am suffering right now from Night Fever. Could that impact my memory at all? I do have Night Fever going on. You guarantee that I know it? Okay, so it's just not coming to me, but it is one that I would have heard. Okay. It's from Saturday Night Fever. I'm pretty sure I saw that. Huh. It's not coming to me. Oh, cool. Right. Yes. Criminal was like in the back of my mind when that question was asked, and it wasn't coming to me. Fortunately, Adam spells it out here. They put a Teague Lawless story in the Image anthology series going on right now. So it's Teague Lawless's Last Christmas. So they are still doing a little bit of Criminal here and there. That's awesome. Just repeat Night Fever several times and you have it. Okay. Boy, everybody definitely seems to know it. This is amazing. Like all these replies. Tonight is the night fever. We don't need to show it. Is it the one that goes like, tonight is the night fever? Kind of like that? I don't know. Am I thinking of it? Tonight is I might know it. I'm not I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think it through. I don't know. I think I know it. I think that is 100% wrong. Almost. You got it. Daniel is from Sweden. He goes, even I know the Night Fever song. Okay. Tonight is the but I only can like think of like a snippet of it. But I think I know what you get. Give it a Google. No, I'm in host mode and you guys deserve my complete attention. So we're going to keep moving on with comic book news. There's no time to pause and discuss Bee Gees songs. That is for my third channel, Night Fever and other Bee Gees songs I don't know, which I'm very proud of. Best content of the night. Okay. Do not Google it. Wow. Some strong opinions on Night Fever. How about Night Fever, the comic? How do you guys feel about that? Because that's... You sing that song like it just broke up with you and it owes you money. Well, I have been cheated on by some songs before. Yeah. I won't Google it because I'm afraid of getting an earworm. Yes. Yes. I'm afraid, like, Khan will come up and put, like, that earworm into my head. And that'll be that. I've got more comic book news to talk about, folks. Let's do that. Here's another series of new books. Marvel announced what they're doing for Free Comic Book Day this year. I like Free Comic Book Day. It's like a little bit of a holiday for nerds, It's always timed around a big superhero movie coming out. It's the beginning of the summer season, and almost all the publishers have some free comics. It's fun. It's really fun. And a lot of comic book stores take the opportunity, to do some sort of a sale or an event, maybe a signing, maybe some cosplay. I love it. I just always have a good time at Free Comic Book Day. So this time it's on May 6th. And here's some of the ones that Marvel has announced. They've got a Spider-Man Venom book that will catch readers up on Amazing Spider-Man's current run. By the way, that cover has Maker on it. Maker is the evil version of Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards from the Ultimate Universe. He expanded his brain with his stretching powers and went in a very dark direction. I think that that's one of the more interesting villains that they have right now in terms of just like a genius with quite a bit of backstory, but that is still out there. They used him in Venom a bunch, or Donny Cates did, to very good effect, I thought. So that could be fun. There's also going to be this Avengers X-Men book with 3 short stories in it. First one is by Jerry Duggan and artist Joshua Cassara. I think he's worked on X-Force, if I'm remembering right. And that's going to be part of Fall of X. Also, Duggan and artist Javier Garron will show the new X-Men lineup in that book. And there's a mystery project by Jonathan Hickman and Valerio Schiti. I guess I thought that Jonathan Hickman had moved on from X-Men. So I'm curious to see what that is. Yeah, that could be very cool. And that's free. By the way, this cover, see this guy with the helmet there, that sort of weird helmet? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not super up to date on everything X-Men these days, but I'm pretty sure that's Cyclops. He created a superhero identity called Captain Krakoa. I don't know how seriously we're supposed to take that. There's also going to be a Spidey and Friends comic based on that Disney cartoon, so sort of like a young all ages type thing. And there's going to be a Voices anthology book from Marvel. So Marvel's putting out 4 different titles for Free Comic Book Day. At least that's been announced thus far. Should be pretty cool. Any of those ones that you think you would pick up? The price is right. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me that the price isn't right. How the heck do you even spell that? I don't know. Captain Krakoa? Yep, Captain Krakoa. I didn't read it. I just heard about it. But who knows? Maybe it's meant to be funny, or maybe it was a cool execution. I don't know. Hello. I don't know any of the other Free Comic Book Day titles, but I love Free Comic Book Day. Since we're talking about that, do you guys have a regular comic book store that you go to? And if you do they do anything special for Free Comic Book Day? The comic book store I tend to go to will usually have extra sales. They will have raffle drawings for prizes. They will hire local cosplayers to show up, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Stormtroopers, Darth Vader, Batman, Wonder Woman. They've all been there. It's really cool. It makes it extra fun. Half off everything? Wow, that's a sale. Not in my country. Legendary Comics in Oklahoma. Okay. Let's see. I believe the manager at our store actually started the event. They usually go all out for it. I don't think it was started by a store, but I thought it was started by like the publishers, but I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I got to look it up. $2 comics are 75 cents. I like that. Let's see, the Blister in Akihabara has free comics. That's awesome. Akihabara. I miss that place. Well, maybe in June. Flying Colors Comics. Actually, yeah, that would be cool. I don't know Flying Color Comics. This is cool to hear you guys say that. What is the store? Do they have online orders? Atomic Comics? They don't have really a big website. They've got a pretty good Facebook presence, and they do a weekly claim sale on Tuesday evenings. That's pretty fun. I am banned from the local comic shop. I thought Free Comic Book Day meant every comic in the shop was free, and one thing led to another. Okay, I believed you for a moment there. How dare you? Let's see, Legendary Comics has 20% off all back issues. That's nice. Things from Another World in Portland. I've been there. Yep, that's a good one. I have 3 stores, and they all do stuff. I'm still getting Free Comic Book Day books at one of them. Good. I haven't had a regular shop since Astro Zombies in Albuquerque, I assume means went out of business. That's too bad. Austin Books and Comics usually goes all out. Cool. The closest comic book store I have is at my dying shopping mall called Time Warp Comics and Cards, where they mostly sell toys and candy with very few comics. That sounds tough. Oh, Diana, let's see. I've got several near me. The Perky Nerd, Krusty Bunkers, House of Secrets. House of Secrets is a really good comic store, by the way. I like that one quite a bit. My friend Abed Gaith took me to that store the last time I went to LA, and we had a good time. Yeah, they've got, and I've been to Krusty Bunkers as well. I had to go to Neil Adams' place. Very Neil Adams heavy, and you would hope and expect it to be. I have not been to the Perky Nerd. I have not been to the Perky Nerd. You never have to say sorry that you're late. I'm glad to have people here. Show up whenever you want. I also miss being in Akihabara. Yeah, it's such a fun place for nerds like us. Bizarro World in Northern California. They always have $1 comics available, and I think they discount some comics. That sounds pretty good. Yeah, sounds like a lot of you have some good shops. I have a personal question. Are you losing weight? You look thinner. I'm trying. It's a slow process, but I'm trying to eat healthy and stuff. I'm trying. Let's see. The Perkiner has the best name. It's a good name. Astro Zombies is still around. I just moved is all. Oh, okay. Got it. When I lived in Ann Arbor, there was a local store that must have had 2 to 3 locations in Michigan. That's pretty healthy. Free comic book day is perfect to grab some things the kids can ruin without me worrying about it. Yeah. I should keep moving and stuff, but that's awesome. What did I think of Neil Adams' modern coloring? I talk about it a little in like when I did the look at his Batman Odyssey book. It's a little overdone, but I respect Neil Adams a lot. Moving on. Yeah, this is it. Marvel Snap. That's like a collectible. What do they call those? Collectible card game, CCG, and it's digital. Well, they've made an update to it that I thought was worthy of mentioning because I'm always for this. They are adding the actual credits for the artists that make the art on the cards. This game launched back in January 10th, okay? And it launched back in October 18th of 2022. As of January 10th, now when you click on the card, it will pull up the credits of the like say it's got artist, inker, colorist. That's pretty cool. Apparently there's something like 170 Marvel characters already in this game. I'm sure they'll continue to expand. Believe it or not, Marvel has literally more than 170 characters. They have a lot more than that. I've never played it. Card games aren't really my personal thing, but I will say that since this was going to be in the news, I looked it up a bit, and it has very strong reviews. Very strong reviews. Like on Metacritic, it's something like 95% positive. That's pretty damn high for a game. And they say that the gameplay is relatively simple compared to a lot of other card games, but it has strong reviews, so I thought that was worth mentioning. Has anybody here actually played the game? I saw it promoted like crazy at the New York Comic Con, and I guess that was because it was coming out right then. But oh my God, they had a humongous pavilion for it, and I was just like, what is this? A game? Okay. But I like that they're adding credits. It's a lot of fun if that's your kind of thing. It's a unique card game and it's worth checking out. It's not your traditional game. Okay. Very fun, highly recommended. Huh. Mobile games make way more money than traditional video games. Yeah, the way this works is it is a free-to-play video game and you can basically buy skins. That was what I read. So yeah. Oh, I do like that game, Hearthstone. Quicker and simpler. I don't know that it needed to be, but Hearthstone was fun. I played that for a while. I challenge you to a children's card game. I don't get that reference, but I appreciate that you made it because I bet a bunch of other people will get it. It's a fun one. Was surprised it didn't have artist credits at launch. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, do the Magic the Gathering cards have credits now for the artist? I think that they do, but I don't know that they did at the very, very beginning. I don't think they did. I play it. All right. Well, it's got the Steve Sorensen check of approval. No paying to win. Only money can be spent on skins for cards. That's nice to hear. So maybe I will give it a shot if it's free. Is it an app I could get on iPhone? I believe so. Oh, it's a Yu-Gi-Oh reference? Well, that makes sense. I'm too old for Yu-Gi-Oh Abridged. I am. Yu-Gi-Oh, right over my head. All I know is it was a manga that got turned into a card game. That's all I really know. Magic the Gathering definitely does have them now. Cool. They did since at least beta. I don't know what that one was, but okay. And this game is on iPhone. Marvel Snap is on iPhone. So Marvel, you should definitely give me a huge paycheck for plugging this game so much. I think we've been talking about it plenty, and you guys have plenty of money. All right, I'm just letting you know that you do. So feel free to pay me for plugging it this much. But I'm curious about it. I'm glad that they're crediting people. I remember seeing many artists years ago credits for Magic the Gathering. Okay, good. Marvel Disney is tweaking the microtransactions in an apparent attempt to make more profit, and that has tempered some of the very high kudos it has gotten. Okay, noted. What else? Don't ask for a paycheck. Ask for the Paste Pot Pete movie starring you. Yeah, I think that that's a very realistic goal. You're right. I should. I should ask them for that. I think that they'll give it to me. I really do. Yeah, I really truly believe that there will be a Paste Pot Pete movie, and that it will star me, somebody who has had no Hollywood credits. I do think that that will happen because, hey, I'm talking about it on a channel where there's literally almost 200 people watching right now, and more will watch later. Thousands more, not millions. Thousands. Let's see. Marvel. Sorry, Chris, we don't have any money for you. We spent it all on Marvel Snap skins. Wow, that was not good thinking on Marvel's part to spend their own money on their own product. That was not wise. That was not wise. But anyway, I'm all for people getting credit for their work. There's a Captain America controversy. I wouldn't call it the biggest controversy, but I think it was worth mentioning. It's more of a controversy like on Twitter, people talking about it, going like, a little cringy here. So I've got the specific panel that people are mostly objecting to here. This comes from Black Panther issue 13, written by John Ridley. Big broad strokes, what's happening in it. Black Panther is going after a terrorist. The Avengers are going after that terrorist. They disagree on how it should be handled. Captain America here, let's see what he says. Goes T'Challa, Stephen. I told you the Avengers would handle things. So you can either go back to Wakanda or stick around and get your butt kicked. Up to you. Some of the people that are objecting to this are saying, this is essentially Captain America saying you can go back to Africa, which is not good optics. It's not good optics. Also, in Civil War II, Captain America and Captain Marvel had very different opinions on how to handle things. And Captain America there was like, well, we strongly disagree, but there's no reason to have a knockdown, drag-out fight over it. In this issue, they do come to blows, and Captain America beats him up. He beats him up, which, if you're in the Captain America comic, maybe. If you're in Avengers, maybe. But you're in the Black Panther comic. He should probably get the win. Anyway, Ridley's run ends in 2 issues. A lot of people did not like how the argument was this is out of character for Captain America to say, like, go home or get your butt kicked. That he has so much history and respect for Black Panther that's not really how he would handle it. I have to admit, I kind of agree. I don't feel that that's 100% in character. What a thoroughly boring panel art-wise. Who knows? Maybe the artist was under a deadline. This could be the reason Ridley's end runs. I almost got that sentence out. Why his run is ending. I don't know. This only just came out, and obviously they announced when it was going to end earlier, but the editors would have seen this. Doesn't seem like something Cap would say or do. I don't think he quite would. Captain America can be a hard guy, a tough guy. But this is the king of a sovereign nation and a fellow Avenger teammate. Is he really going to say, like, you're going to get your butt kicked if you don't go home? I don't know. Not to Black Panther. He might say it to somebody like Hawkeye if Hawkeye was being a total jerk and not being respectful. I don't think he'd say that to Black Panther. It does seem a little out of character. And, these are like fictional people. So, we say it's out of character. Sometimes people do out of character things. That's what makes them three-dimensional. Sometimes they do things that are out of character. But this doesn't quite feel, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great. Is Jack Kirby's 70s Captain America run good? Absolutely, it's good. Absolutely. It's a blast. Crazy sci-fi concepts, crazy stuff. The Mad Bomb. I still want them to use the Mad Bomb in a Marvel movie. I think that would be awesome. So, yeah, it's a very fun run. Let's see. Even in a Cap book, he couldn't beat Black Panther. He lost in a fight to T'Chaka as Black Panther, right? During like World War II era, didn't Captain America lose a fight to that Black Panther? I would say that they're pretty closely evenly matched in terms of like, fighting prowess and stuff and strength and things like that. It seems to me Ridley didn't think that speech through in a few different ways. Yeah. What editor read that and didn't see the controversy coming? And you know what? I think that that's a great point, Diana, that editors seem sometimes a little more hands-off in making corrections these days. They're coming up with, big ideas for, events and where they want a character to go. But that's the kind of thing that probably should have been caught by an editor saying, we can get the gist of like this disagreement across and have them like just about to butt heads, but he shouldn't quite be saying this exact thing. Like we need to tweak that dialogue. And then the story, you can still tell this story, but like, there's things there that an editor should be catching. I agree. I agree. Anyway, want to do at least acknowledge it. As far as how big a controversy, I think that this will honestly, realistically, this will be forgotten pretty quickly. But this issue did not go over well. Here's one that's pretty big. I've got a few things to say about this one. Vulture, the sort of entertainment site, they have some pretty good reporting sometimes. They have a humongous expose on Marvel's visual effects for their movies. I'm talking, just to be clear. And there's a lot that came out of that. It's an article that I would recommend, first of all, that you read. I'm not going to try to summarize the whole thing. It's pretty big. I do want to bring up a couple points that they had and maybe get a small discussion going today. So first of all, there was at least one person that went on the record. A bunch of them were anonymous that talked about this, them being visual effects artists. And at least a few of them actually were saying that Marvel's offers for pay can be about sometimes 20% lower than an industry standard. That's not great, because they employ so many people. They're a huge part of the business because they make so much entertainment right now, and they need so many special effects for this and movies. One thing that I've picked out the interesting out of this was they specifically mention a woman named Victoria Alonso, and she's the VFX and post-production president. One person said that she's like a kingmaker. In other words, if you do a good job, she's the kind of person that can really elevate your career and help you, like accelerate. But that if you ever back out of a project after you've already started it, no matter what the reason, so there are some people that believe that like she will blackball these people, blacklist, like not blackball, blacklist, right? Or maybe it's the same thing. Anyway, like potentially just like not give you any work moving forward. Some other people, just to be clear, said they don't believe that there is a blacklist, but some people do believe it. I wouldn't know, and they don't necessarily know for sure. But it seems like this person, Victoria Alonso, can definitely influence careers in a massive way. She's the one that decides, who gets hired, which studios get hired to do the work. And like for instance, if a studio says we can do it at this price, and then somehow they don't quite deliver, that they're supposedly never going to get work again. But that part I think is somewhat fair. There's some anonymous complaints that Marvel decides on, and we've heard this before, by the way, in other reports, that they don't necessarily have a vision locked in for certain action scenes or finales that are very visual effects heavy. And what it leads to is them having the teams revise stuff more than is necessary. Hey, it's their money, but the argument is that they're wasting time and they're wasting money by not locking in what they want before anything starts getting worked on. A lot of suggestions were, at this point, at Marvel's size, they should probably just get their own VFX department. They don't have they outsource all of this stuff to ILM and Digital Domain, and then tons and tons of smaller studios depending on the shot and the needs for that particular project. But maybe they should just have their own department at this point. And here's the last thing I want to mention about this. A bunch of VFX artists started a Slack channel. That's just a channel where they could all talk together. Back in January of last year. So it's been just over a year it's been going. And they would share with each other what they're getting paid. I think that that's actually a good idea. And it allowed them to bargain for more money. Some people played like really good hardball with Marvel on one of their recent projects. Marvel went around to all these different artists saying no, we can't pay quite that much. Sorry. No. Oh, you're asking for the same. No, sorry. We can't do that. They went through everybody. And then they were just like, oh, okay, I guess we have to pay them, the going rate. Maybe they do need to unionize. Maybe. I don't know. They might be getting taken advantage of. I don't know. I must understand that Marvel is a small indie company. Yeah. I'm not sure about that one. I think they're pretty big now. They used to not be huge, but they've grown. They have grown. Any thoughts or opinions on this? Has anybody else actually read the article on Vulture? It's really interesting. If Marvel had their own VFX department, then they'd have to pay for medical insurance. Yes, they would. But guess what? They could. And they should. MCU VFX look kind of bad and rushed. Age Hulk looks like boo-boo. I don't quite know what all of that means. Sometimes their effects aren't perfect. I think in general they get some pretty good results. I think they really do get some pretty good results. Generally speaking. But I think that when they have problems, it's mostly just probably due to time management, and that they probably could get even better results if they were more confident about locking in ideas earlier. That was the impression I got out of reading this article. The problem is all productions are rushed. Maybe. Unionized workplaces are a must in big business and companies, especially when the big business can't afford to pay living wages for their workers and give them protection. They just don't want to. Yeah. Let's see. They literally have more money than they could spend in many lifetimes. It's not controversial to be paid properly with proper benefits. They have the cheddar. Well, we'll see what happens. But, articles like this are hopefully good for helping these artists get paid what they deserve. Whoa, let's see. Thank you for the super chat. Wow. This situation sounds so similar to how Marvel treated their comic artists. Honestly, it's nice to see more solidarity among artists in face of this. Well, I think artists with social media do have access to learning more about how each other are getting treated and potentially standing up for themselves in a bigger way. So that's good. But I think that this is like not just a Marvel thing. I think that this is a commonality through all types of business. You know, a business, their job as the business's reason for existing is to make profit. So, you know, they're going to get away with what they can get away with, and that's not a business being evil. You know, we just need to put pressure on the people running the business to do the right thing. But the business is always going to try to, you know, pay the least and charge the most. That's how any business operates as a business. It's not a living thing. But we need to put pressure on the people running it to do the right thing. Yeah, and stand up for each other. It's a trend with big companies to farm out work because of cheap overseas workers, and then if there's a slowdown, they aren't paying people. I've worked at several places that do that. Artists need cheddar too. Well, they certainly do, and a lot of artists, of course, are, you know, don't necessarily have huge reserves where they can like wait to be paid. Like, you know, they should be paid a portion up front. I'm a child of the Reagan administration. I'm just talking. I just went to business school and live in a capitalist country. I'm just trying to be honest. I mean, like a business, you know, not an association or anything like that. A business, the business's only job is to make a profit. And you need to like be careful about that because that's all it's there to do. You need to be careful as a person. You need to like try to inject morals into the like the bylaws and the work culture and the environment. I hope I'm making sense. Have I seen Avatar 2? Their effects look years and look lifelike. I saw Avatar 2. I didn't love that movie, by the way. It wasn't bad. It just was kind of boring, I thought. It wasn't for me, really. But yeah, of course the effects are good in that. But I mean, they took forever. Just to be clear, like it's comparing something that, you know, the director was only looking to, you know, do like sort of one thing essentially at a time, and he took his time and did it right. Versus if we want sort of this if we want a connected superhero universe that like kind of gives us regular content, it's coming out so fast that like I think like you just have to be realistic. Like you don't expect your average TV show to have the same special effects that a $100 or $200 million movie does, right? You just don't expect that, I would say. You can like forgive things. Well, even a $200 movie, sometimes you have to forgive that versus Avatar was something like a $400 million movie that took many years more to make. So it isn't necessarily comparing the same work environment to work structure and stuff like that. So yeah, I am making sense. Okay, just curious. As someone with a finance degree and at least a self-proclaimed economist, I agree. Companies mostly will not self-sacrifice to the greater good. A great way of putting it. Thank you. That's just not what a company is structured to do. So, yeah, things like, you know, having news and getting that information out there and organizing people to push back, that's how we get people to get treated better. Let's talk about something completely different. The Spy Family musical. Yes, Spy Family, the manga is doing gangbusters. I love it. I've talked it up many times on this show. And it is in the process of getting a live action stage musical. I've seen the cast photos and it's amazing how accurate all of the actors look to the actual like manga. It's so accurate in terms of visuals. But it's going to be a stage musical. Toho is producing it. That'll run in Tokyo's Imperial Theater from March 8th through the 29th. After that, it goes on a tour. So it's going to places like Hyogo and Fukuoka in April and May. They had a press conference this past week. That's why I'm talking about it. And they showed images here of 4 different actresses that will be playing the role of Anya Forger. They got 4 because, of course, this is a little kid. They can't have the same little kid doing performance after performance after performance. I don't know what Japan's rules are for minors and work, but I assume they can't be radically different than here in the US, where, you know, we limit how much time a kid is allowed to work. So they got 4 kids that all look very sort of similar, and will like alternate playing Anya. And then they recreated the image of the volume 2 manga. These are actual photos, although this is what, like, you know, the cover looks like on volume 2 of the manga. And they worked with I forget the exact chair manufacturer, but the Gage cover is one of the main characters sitting on a chair that tells you a little bit of something about their personality. And yeah, so they've got a like. I just thought it was cute, fun. Oops, I didn't mean to go forward there yet. Who knows how good it will be? But if you are curious about it, just like, you got to just Google what the cast looks like. It's so accurate. It's so accurate. Anyway. This is interesting. Yeah. Wonder Woman Historia #1 is Phil Jimenez's Avatar 2. It looks incredible, but it took him like 3 years to do that one issue. Worth it, but yeah, it's tough. Tough calls. I love Spy Family. And it's a comedy, so I think doing it as a musical actually makes sense. Musicals, you know, build up to like these huge emotional moments where people just can't contain their emotions, and the only way they can get things out is to sing. And I think that fits a comedy action book very, very well. So I am very curious to see what they do with that. Hopefully it's cool. I don't know that it's something I will ever get to see, but you never know with streaming services these days. You never know. I just can't help it. I need to sing. Monorail. I'll move on. Not much discussion there, but I was excited by it. I feel like it's become almost a recurring segment on my show where I have to talk about either a bankruptcy or a comic book store getting robbed. I feel like I'm just talking about it so much. But it is actual stuff that's happening, and I want to document it in case it's a trend, and maybe it will go away, and that would make me kind of happy. But here's the latest one I came across. This was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, a store called Burnt Comics. That's the owner's last name, Berndt. Thief did like the sort of usual smash and grab, smashed 2 display cases, grabbed a bunch of random stuff, primarily graded slabbed comics. I mean, they have just become one of the easiest things for these people to steal, because you don't have to now know too much about what comic is worth anything. You just have to grab anything that's already been slabbed, and it's likely to be fairly protected as you run away with it. Fortunately, the owner says that there is security camera footage like showing the thief, so hopefully they get tracked down. This is just sort of like a photo of smashed up stuff in their case. But I feel bad store owners. You know, they're comic thieves every week. Yeah, Smash and grab seems like random criminals rather than a targeted attack. Probably. They did mention actually in this news article that I was reading that 2 other collectible shops had been robbed in recent weeks. Not comics, but like one was like model trains, I think. And so I think people are just sort of aware that collectibles can have a value. Let's see. I help a local comic shop with its inventory as a friend and essentially as their comic guy. Sadly, a lot of theft is not this overt, and it's the type of thing we catch on cameras. Oh, okay. Interesting. They should just start GPS tracking slabs. Well, you could actually put like a tracking chip on it, I guess, because we can chip our pets, can't we? So, I mean, you could. But then again, like how hard is it to like honestly like crack open the slab? Yeah, the comic will sell for less than the slab version, but you just get rid of that and now nobody knows where it came from. And I'm not trying to give people ideas, and I think that they would figure that one out on their own. Yeah, not great. I just feel like I'm coming across this a lot lately, and I feel like I'm I don't know. You know, I work in selling used cars, right? And for 3.5, 4 years working there, we have a gate that closes that for the lot of the cars, and we lock them up after we show them to people, and that was that. And we never had any issues. Well, now people are going to our stores and breaking into the car and trying to drive it either past the gate, which does not work. Like we had somebody do that like a couple months ago. Like they came onto the lot middle of the night, used a gun and shot out the lockbox where we keep keys, started a BMW, like drove it into the gate. They didn't get anywhere. They got seriously injured. But it's still people trying these desperate things. We've had 2 stores in like Washington and Oregon in the last several months, like to year, where people have broken into the car and driven it right through the sort of window / doors of the store itself, like into the store and through the store, and smashed out another window. It totally ruined the car and like wasn't successful, but people are trying these really desperate things. And I'm coming across all these stories of people stealing from comic stores. It seems like more than they used to. I think, and it's not just here, because like I did see some, like we talked about last week, it was one up in Canada. So I don't think it's purely an American thing. I think that people are hurting and they're being they're getting desperate. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Would I slab my kitties? No. Love those little buggers. They are ridiculous, and I love them for it. Never going to slab my kitties. They are free to do whatever they want. They get away with whatever they want. Tell them no, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, crime rises as inflation rises. People start getting desperate and do desperate things. Yeah. Hopefully things will get better in the future. Here's one that like amused me a little. I came across this on Bleeding Cool, so credit to them. But there's a comic book shop closing, but it's closing due to cannabis legislation. Sort of, yeah. There's this place called Crosstown Trafficking in Ottawa. That's the capital of Canada, by the way. Pretty smart guy. I know things like that. It went into business back in '92 as a comic book and record store. And then the owner started like also selling like pot. Wasn't necessarily strictly legal, but wasn't necessarily illegal. So, you could be a head shop, you could sell certain things. But now that like as of 2018, I'm pretty sure Canada nationwide legalized marijuana. And so he was like, well, there's going to be like, he goes, I don't want to get a license, and there's going to be a million other stores doing it. So he got out of that and he went back to just comic books and records. Apparently that's not enough to pay the bills. The store has announced that it's closing as of March 31st. And until then, they've got liquidation sales. So if any of you are near Ottawa, you want to see if you can get some either records or comics at a good price, Crosstown Traffic is apparently having big sales. Let's see. My local comic shop, Jay and Silent Bob's Stash, might be in trouble. Oh, yeah? Let's see. Funny how comic shops started like pot shops. Yeah. So that was kind of a unique and slightly amusing way for a store to be going out of business, is like saying that it was due to like the changing legal trends. I don't know. I guess it's sort of true. It sounds like that this owner might not have necessarily been the most passionate about comics, though, since he's so sort of diversified, you know? It wasn't just comics. It was like comics and records initially, and then it was like weed. You can hide your weed inside this hollowed out copy of Mouse. Didn't lots of underground comics from 60s sell at dispensaries? I think so. I gotta reread like my history on that. I think so. I still can't get over somebody spending 13 years and $460 million to make a sequel, call it Way of Water, and it's just Pocahontas 2. Kind of, yeah. I didn't love it, but respect if people did. Again, I don't think it's bad, and the special effects are incredible. They're having baked sales. There you go. Nice. Let's see. Nice Jimi Hendrix reference. Whoops, I missed it. I missed it. Let's see. That's like a speakeasy going out of business after Prohibition ended. Kinda. But it would be like they also sold comics. Anyway, if you're in the Ottawa area, maybe you want to get some comics cheap. Aftershock had an update on their bankruptcy, or like not that they announced this. It was more just like this was in the news. So this was a pretty big piece of news right before the holiday with Aftershock announcing bankruptcy. They owe a lot of comic book creators and a lot of printers and all sorts of people. They owe a lot of money. And they declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy that like allows the courts to give to protect them for a little while, to try to restructure and get more time to pay their debts so that they can potentially stay in business. It's always in interest to keep a business running because it employs people. There are valid reasons for wanting to keep a business alive, even if it's falling on hard times or not doing great. So anyway, they are now petitioning the courts to, like this week, to allow them to use some of their existing money instead of paying off some of their debts, just to pay the bare minimum bills to keep things running. We're talking keep the lights on in the office and, pay their staff and pay the artists so that they can keep producing their core product, which is comic books. They owe money to people, but they're saying like, well, please, grant us a judgment that we're allowed to, for now, first use this money to continue to produce more comic books before we pay off anybody. They also, at the same time, though, this was interesting. This was the most interesting piece to me. They filed a second emergency petition at the same time to pay pre-petition employee wages. As in, before this first petition of like the creditors they need just to keep business moving, they're saying like, okay, pay their pre-petition before that period employee wages. That to me implies that they may not have been paying their own employees lately. At which point, like, I want people to get paid, but I'm also like, does this place have a chance at survival? I don't know. It's not great. It's not great. I would not want to be owed money by Aftershock right now. it's a tough time to be owed money by them. Jumping back to the last piece of news, Eric says underground comics were sold in head shops that were places that sold legal drug-related items like pipes, blacklight posters, hippie music. Yeah. Yep. Daniel with a super positive message here saying Aftershock Comics is doomed. Things definitely don't look great for them, do they? It's not looking great for Aftershock. Yeah. I would not want to be owed money by anyone right now. Well, that's fair. That's fair. Say, hard to say. It could be that the petition went through midway through a pay period. Okay, maybe I've implied too much. I don't know. Lots of bad business practices. Same happened with heavy metal with a bunch of artists. Yeah, heavy metal is having problems too. At least they have their brand, right? Like heavy metal is like well known as a brand, and I feel like Aftershock doesn't quite have that same recognizability at this point. They have produced some good comics. They have. I think it's going to take a while for them to build an effective brand, and I don't know. They're definitely struggling through a tough time. If they come through this, wow, what an amazing piece of company history that would be in retrospect. But I don't know. Sometimes it feels like this is just like an inevitable thing that's like being drawn out. But you got to draw it out just in case you can bring in some revenue and pay the people that have made the comics. So there's really no choice. Like you can't just give up. You have to try to pay everybody that's owed and keep producing stuff. So they're doing what they can. It's a tough situation. Let's see. Andy has a professional's point of view. I had been going through the same thing with Valiant. I finally got paid last week for some layouts I did for them last summer. Wow. I'd heard that like Valiant was having tough times. I mean, Valiant is only putting out one comic book a month these days, but at least they're in business. They do have some good properties. They do have some good creators. I'm glad that you got paid, Andy. But that must have been tough. That is tough. As an artist, you know, most comic book artists anyway are not just, kicking it in a mansion, lighting cigars with rolled up $100 bills that they set on fire. So to wait that amount of time to get paid for work you've already done, that is wild. That is wild. Does Aftershock have film rights for the characters? Yes. Yes, they do. Or at least partial rights. Partial, yeah. Valiant needs to do another Aerosmith crossover? Huh. I don't remember that. Last piece of news I've got. An AI lawsuit. This is one of my favorite, this is drawn by actual artists, but the joke is look closely at AI art. Tends to have too many fingers, too many teeth, just does some weird stuff. Anyway, there's a lawsuit being filed by a group of artists. They are the plaintiffs, and they're filing it against 3 companies. This is being filed in Northern California against DeviantArt. A lot of comic book artists keep portfolios there. Midjourney and Stability AI. All 3 of those companies use Stable Diffusion. That was an AI product based on images of like millions of images that were collected in a data set. It's totally sketchy how they did that. There was like this, nonprofit set up to just explore how AI works. And so, like, if you're not making a profit, okay, I guess you're allowed to scrape other images because you're not trying to make a profit. But then that data set got used by for-profit companies. That's just so wrong. So wrong. Anyway, of course, the claims are kind of obvious. The artists are saying they infringed on their artist copyrights by using their art to train AIs without their permission. So they're seeking both damages and an injunction to stop these things from working. So anyway, well, I think it's too late for DeviantArt. DeviantArt, may have changed their policies, but they allowed their artists' work to be used. They didn't block this stuff. Anyway, I hope they sue their robot pants off. All of this AI scares the crap right out of me. Are we going to lose everything that is pure and every cultural touchstone we have left? It seems scary in the moment because we don't know what's coming, but we have to find a middle ground where we just take each day one at a time and try to use technology to our advantage, but protect ourselves from being exploited. And we'll see. Yeah, that's the reason I'm mentioning it. This could set a precedent to protect artists. And artists should have their rights protected. Did they know, though, when the AI started taking data, though? The artists didn't know, and I don't know exactly when they started doing it. Comic book artist Brian Haberlin has been using AI in his comics. Well, there's different types of AI, so I'm not going to just condemn AI. If the AI is using opted-in artwork, that's different, isn't it? Now, I don't know of one of those off the top of my head, but there are supposedly some small AIs that do stuff like that. If you're using that to generate ideas, that's one thing. But if you're using an AI that has taken people's work without permission, and they're not getting the right to say no, and they're not getting compensated for this, I find that disgusting, abhorrent behavior. I really find it awful. I really do. There was that infamous tweet from someone who said artists were hoarding their talent and were elitists. Yeah, I did read about, that was one of the guys that was building one of these AIs. But if an athlete was replaced by a robot, you people would go nuts. Yeah, guess what? Yeah, some people have more talent than others. But guess what? Anybody can be an artist and get better at it. It takes work. Am I a great artist? No, but at least I'm sitting down and trying to improve every week. I'm putting in that effort. I don't feel like, I'm willing to, if you want to be an artist, yeah, you have to work. But that's the truth for any skill. It's disgusting to feel entitled, oh, I love, can you imagine just somebody sitting there going oh, I love how Jorge Jimenez draws. It's not fair that I can't draw like him. Well, maybe you could put in the work, Pisses me off, to be honest, folks. Pisses me off. Hot take. Multiple fingers and other inaccuracies of AI are not flaws, but features to be exploited with artistic intention. I guess. I mean, this person did, right? This I'm sorry that I don't know the artist did this. I know that's not great, but this one's making the rounds everywhere. This artist used what's going on to come up with a good joke. I appreciate that. But yeah, the idea of feeling entitled to be able to draw well, it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well. I don't know. I just don't see how people don't respect art the same way they respect other skills. Is somebody going to just say oh, it's not fair that I'm not a professional plumber. It's not fair that I don't have those skills. I think it's that people don't want to do the work. I feel like that's all it is that people don't want to do the work. It takes a little time and effort, I know, to come up with the right prompts to get the AI stuff the way you want it to look. But essentially, you're looking for a shortcut, not to do something that you can't do. It's a shortcut. Shortcuts are fine sometimes, but I don't like this one. It creeps me out, how people seem to be okay with like that all these like really amazing painters and artists and stuff have had their style stolen, and they're like, oh well, that they shouldn't be entitled to that. No, they earned that. I think that you should be entitled. Now I don't want to go so far that I sound like I'm like Ayn Rand, but you should be entitled to the fruits of your labor, right? Not like, boy, she would not have been okay though with AI art. That's for sure. That's for sure. One day will each be a digital entity married to another digital entity. We'll talk about where to store our meaty slabs while the digital heart of us is doing the real lifting. Who knows? Maybe. Maybe. Cup Creation says, I'm of the opinion that it's not talent that makes a great artist, it's patience. Um, I think it's a blend of things. I do think that patience is important. I think that hard work is important. Um, there's so many people out there that draw in very different styles, but they can communicate. That's what's important, is communicating. Yeah, you might love a very different artist style, right? If I just said, I love the artwork of Dave Johnson, I wish I could draw like him. Well, I don't draw like him. I draw like this, and I wish I could draw like somebody like that, right? But at least I can draw, and I'm putting in the work. That's what's important. Please call it AI images. That's fair, EJ, to not call it art. Art does sound like a term that should have human intention behind it, human work. That's a very good distinction. I like that. I almost missed this. I'm sorry, Mia Nian. There's a super chat here. Let me acknowledge it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Meow. I always say art is the athletics for creatives. It takes years of training. You'll get screwed in your contracts and your body will give out. But that's true. Like nobody goes around saying the same thing about athletics that they do about art. They don't say like, "Oh, it's not fair that like, Tom Brady gets to play in his 40s for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and go like, I want to be a professional football player. I'm in my 40s and I want to be a professional football player." Okay, sorry. Not everybody gets to have like every skill. If you really love football, you could like take that as far as you could naturally. And if you don't have the athletic angle, well, maybe you could still become a coach or a trainer or a manager. You can find a way to like still work on what you love and be really, really good at it. Yeah, there's natural talent. There's also work. Sorry that I'm really frustrated about this, like these AI images. I'm really frustrated at not necessarily like what it does. I'm frustrated at people that feel entitled to have access to somebody else's skill without putting in the hard work and effort. I don't know if I'm quite being clear, to be honest. It's just that I've seen people that think that they can't draw or that they can't write, and I've seen them take classes and discover that they can. It's not necessarily the finished product and the style that they thought that they would have, but they can do it. And I think that that's true for a lot of things. I want to be Gordon Ramsay. It's not fair that Gordon Ramsay owns like, 20 restaurants. I want to do that. Well, okay, put in the work. You don't have a program like AI Chef that will just like make the stuff for you. What's the difference? Why should painters and illustrators be okay with their particular style and work being taken, and that like everybody should be able to produce work on the same level? Like, why would that be okay? I really ranted a little bit here, didn't I? I'm not saying that everybody that uses AI is a bad person, and there are I I can understand using certain AI tools for ideas, but we have to be very careful in how we train these things and how we compensate and protect the people that it's basing stuff on. Is art information? The internet is about the free exchange of information. There may be more of a gray area here than screw AI. I don't necessarily think art counts as information. I think art counts as something made by a person meant to evoke an emotional response. That's what I think of with art. So like music, a comic, a movie, a poem, whatever it might be. I think, a painting, it's designed to make you feel something. Ideally, I think that's what I think, and I think that that's our way of connecting with each other and understanding our similarities and our differences and understanding the human experience and just our way of understanding and making sense of this world, which just often does not seem to make full sense. That's how I think of it. I don't necessarily think of it as like information, other than the fact that, like, in a way, everything could technically be broken down into information, but that's not like the intent of art. The intent of art isn't necessarily to inform, it's to make somebody feel something. It's like Inception, it's trying to put these ideas in people's heads without like just flat out telling them like this is what you should think. Something like that. It's a fair enough question to ask, but I just don't quite think it is art information. Anyway, if you put your soul in it, AI images, helping you out here, EJ. AI images are the Shang Tsung of the digital world. Well, that's everything I had for news in comics this particular week. Did anybody else check out The Last of Us? Boy, what an incredible game. Show seems like it could be really, really good. I'm hopeful. I really am. It seems very loyal. It seems very loyal in a lot of ways, the important ways. The whole prologue was just right out of the game. I guess I'm not really going to be able to quite finish this, but like the idea was just like sort of Ellie in the foreground, like, bracing her arm against, a clicker, that kind of a thing. I'll just sort of focus on me here. Let's see. I thought there was a question that I was missing. Where was it? First of all, that wasn't the one I was looking for, but yes, I've absolutely played The Last of Us Part 2. Somebody asked that. What was it? Oh, darn, I missed it, folks. I'm sorry. Let's see. What's this question? Show. Did I go away for a minute there? It looked like my internet briefly crashed for half a second, but like that the broadcast is still going. Yeah. Oh no, where did I go? I was trying to click on people's comments and it briefly like just closed on me. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know what that was. So a great end to an episode, like just total confusion. I'm just talking. You guys get a black screen, no audio or anything. Show's still going, and then I just come back. That's what people expect out of a show. Anyway, I thought that there was some questions, but yeah. In a week, do you watch TV more than read comics? No, I don't watch that much TV or play that many video games. A little bit when I can. But no, I probably, in terms of my entertainment hour, I probably invest the most in comic books. Although, keep in mind, I'm making a show about comics and I'm counting some of that time of reading comics specifically for like a comic tropes episode, as well as the ones that I'll like sort of review that I read each week for like my weekly show. Oh, thanks for the compliment, Joshua. That's super, super kind of you. I appreciate the kind words, folks. Yeah, the views dropped really off really fast when I disappeared. Sorry about that. Oh yeah, I did check out the first episode of The Peripheral. It was interesting, kind of a Matrix type of idea. I'm just so busy that I didn't keep up with that one. I only can like watch one, maybe two shows a week generally, and maybe one movie. That's like about as much time as I have. What was it? It was a blue screen for about 15 seconds. Sorry about that, folks. Oh, cool. Look at that. Thank you, TJ. Appreciate the super chat. That really helps. It sincerely does. Yeah, I gave you guys the Sopranos ending. I was talking about AI, and methinks that the computer might have been listening. That's what I'm thinking. How much of Penthouse Comics did you read for the episode? I read about maybe about 8 to 12 issues of it. But I'll be honest, I'd read a bunch of them when I was a teenager or like early 20s, something like that. So I remembered some of that. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, you know what? There's a story here. Yeah. Because I was in college, I think was when that came out, if I'm remembering right. And I was getting that and heavy metal and just sort of like, yeah, oh, cool. You can do other things with comics. That's interesting. I might be the only one that liked that Sopranos ending. Oh, I liked it. I think Sopranos ended very strong. I think that like my favorite TV show ending, I'll say Breaking Bad. Maybe that's cliche these days, but boy, I thought that show was so solid all the way to the very end. I think they nailed it. But I think The Sopranos ended very well. Mm-hmm. I tracked down some of those after watching your episode on Penthouse. Those were a rough reading experience. Yeah, but some of the early issues, the art is incredible. That's the cool thing about that. Let's see. Did you read or like Homesick Pilots? No, I don't know that one, Tick Goblin. I'm sorry. I just don't know that one. BCS had the perfect ending. What was BCS? BCS. Oh, Better Call Saul. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay, fair. No, I don't really read many erotic comics. Like I would say, like Penthouse was me dabbling in that. I don't know if there's really anything else that I would count as like intentionally erotic comics. I don't think it's not really my thing. Can't really think of any others off the top of my head. I never watched The Shield. I heard that it was good. I like Michael Chiklis. He's good. Did you enjoy Grant Morrison's Batman run? Absolutely. Would you ever consider it for a Comic Tropes episode? Absolutely. Ooh, another super chat. I guess I'm glad I kept going for a few minutes here. Thank you, Lee. I met Trad Bourne. His hand is nearly destroyed from putting time and effort into his craft. Some using AI is like and using AI is like an athlete using PEDs. I guess I could sort of understand that reference. Yeah, I've got plenty of artist friends, and yeah, sometimes like like their fingers can like curl up a little, and they can get really hard calluses. To say nothing of like visually we're not seeing it, but like the back issues and stuff like that you can get if you are sitting too long. You have to. I think we know more about health these days, and that hopefully more artists are able to time themselves for like, okay, I'm going to like draw for this long, and then I'm going to force myself to get up and move around, no matter what the deadline is. I hope more people are doing that. Yeah, I've never really specifically read hentai. The closest I came was when I was researching Transformers, coming across Kiss players. Just I made an episode about that on Comic Tropes. That is the most bonkers thing. That is really weird take on Transformers. Not quite hentai, but it's kind of perverted. Let's see. Watch your Greg Land video. Oh, yeah. Kind of crazy that he would trace adult films for his comic work. I think the idea that he probably had there is it's the human form. And superheroes generally wear spandex. You're drawing the human form idealized. But the problem with using reference, in my opinion, is reference is fine, just to be clear. Let me just put that out there. Using reference is great. It's when you become too beholden to it, I think. And I honestly think that that's something I struggle with, is like feeling like I'm trying to reference something a little too closely, and I lose the energy and the creativity of when, you're just going to just draw. But I'm always also drawing. So I try to keep loose. And I really like going to live drawing sessions whenever I can. I'm a fan of Dr. Sketchy. I really like going to those when I can. But I think that the problem is if you start using too much reference, it becomes a crutch, and you end up getting like the artwork looks a little stiff and unconvincing, and also can be inconsistent from panel to panel. Like you might come up with one really cool looking drawing, but it might not, like the character might not quite look right in the next panel, depending on if you're using like all of a sudden a different person or a different piece of reference. Yeah, Alex Ross uses reference, but you know what? I really like the way he does it. He hires his own models, takes his own photos, even sculpts his own statues. So like, I really like the way he does it, because it's, no matter what, you're really still getting his ideas. He's just got a way to translate it like through a couple steps, but I really like how he does it. I admire that process. Thank you, Max Power. My favorite thing about Kiss Players was how meticulously it fit into the G1 show canon. Yeah, for a while, like the people in Japan were really working hard to connect all of Transformers into this one unified continuity. It was bonkers, just bonkers. Let's see. Ed from Cartoonist Kayfabe talks about references, i.e. Google SketchUps and tracing things straight. I'm sure he does. Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm a huge hockey fan in general. I'm very open to going to a Kraken game. I've heard from some of my coworkers and stuff that some really nice vibes, some really, really friendly, enthusiastic fans, like a really nice stadium and crack. Like, yeah, so I would be up for going to that. Was there any other big questions? Let me just check real quick. Let's see. I think it was on Case Aiken's podcast, but while comic art poses aren't real, they're supposed to evoke a mood or feelings. Well, that's what I think about art. It's supposed to evoke feelings. I was just at Climate Change Arena for AEW. Well, that sounds very fun. Kraken are doing well this year. You would know, Randy. Randy is Canadian, so hockey is literally in his blood. One time I was walking with him down the street and Randy tripped. And, if I trip and skin my knee, it bleeds red. A bunch of hockey pucks fell out of his knee. It was like Sonic getting hit and all these rings burst out of him, but they were like all hockey pucks. And he was like, oh, that's what Canadians are. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I really love learning about different cultures like that. And that's what happens. So if you're ever curious, and you see Randy at a comic convention or something, just shove him from behind. It's really interesting. All these hockey pucks burst out of him. It's great. It's really entertaining. He cries a little, but that's okay. Yep. True story. As a Bostonian, do you root for Tom Brady? I do. Not as enthusiastically as I used to. But I do think he's legit like one of the all-time great athletes, and I'm curious to see how far he goes. That said, dude should have retired by now, but I'm curious to follow him. Yeah. Maple syrup blood. That's dirty. How dare you, Victor? How dare you imply something like that? It's just a bad stereotype. Poutine gravy. Just to be clear, I once went up to Vancouver to hang out with Randy. Randy's my buddy, and he is Canadian. And I was like, I like poutine, Randy. Like I know Canada is known for good poutine. Where can we get some? And he was like, I've never had poutine. Here, I was like, oh, but he did find us a restaurant that actually had some really amazing poutine. So that was actually really, really fun. Randy's a good guy. And you should definitely keep your eye out because he's about to launch a Kickstarter for more Bullet Adventures. And that's his book. Randy always fulfills his Kickstarters. He always pays his talent. There's his most recent one. I'm happy that I got a copy. I'm always happy to plug my friends. Plug anyone that's here. A Comic Tropes episode about how John Stanley was funny and left comics in bitterness. I don't know John Stanley off the top of my head. Maybe I do know him, but off the top of my head, it's not ringing a bell. I'll look it up. Thanks. Poutine is the French-speaking part of Quebec. Is it? Is it actually? It's a delicious food is all I know. Well, I guess this is as good a time as any to wrap up the show. I took a little longer than usual because my wife went to visit her parents. So I am going to cook for myself. And I got to get the kitties some food. But yeah, I've got nobody upstairs like waiting for me or like cooking for me or anything like that. So this is a good time to wrap up the show. I hope, he did Little Lulu. I like Little Lulu. Okay, thanks. I hope it was a good show. We had some interesting news. I hope that sometime soon I can just have news where it's more just like artists and writers announcing cool stuff or revealing cool behind the scenes stories, like talking about that for news as compared to like bankruptcies and comic shops getting robbed. But if that stuff happens, I'm going to include it because, yeah, it's the comic book news of the week. Out of the books that I reviewed this week, I always sort of forget this. Not always. Sometimes I forget. But what would I choose as my pick of the week for a book? Yeah, the overall best book that I read this week would have been The Human Target, number 10. It's funny. I love this run. It's really good. But for my sort of undiscovered gem, I really liked coming across this one, Black Cloak. So again, I recommend that. And hopefully that's useful to you. I'm going to take off, folks. Take care of each other. Treat each other well. And until I see you next time, you can get a double salute. And you can also keep reading comics. Take care, everybody.